Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Birckbichler, and the title of my thesis is Sports-Related Concussions, Knowledge and Attitudes Towards Concussion Symptoms. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of my literature review and some of my background. So what I found through my research was that the emotional and the psychological effects of concussions aren't always emphasized as much as the physical. So when you think about a concussion, you think about the headaches you get, the light sensitivity. You don't always think of the anxiety, the depression, and the mood changes that can come from concussions. So if you leave these symptoms untreated, unfortunately they have been linked to suicide, which leads me to a topic that's been discussed a lot in the NFL recently because of the movie Concussion. So chronic traumatic encephalopathy. So this is a progressive brain disease. It's found in a lot of history of NFL players who just take multiple hits to the head. The case that I want to talk about a little bit is Justin Strzelczyk. So Justin Strzelczyk was a Pittsburgh Steeler. He played in the NFL. He took a lot of hits to the head. So towards the end of his life, he was starting to have a lot of mood changes, loss of memory, and a lot of severe aggression. And unfortunately, his life ended when he was on a high-speed chase with police and drove full speed into an oil tanker. So this is one of the more severe problems with CTE, but it just shows the psychological effects on the brain that concussions can have. So this is what prompted me to want to do a little research of my own about college students and how they feel about concussions. So some of my research questions, what I wanted to find out was what are college students' attitudes about concussion symptoms, and specifically I wanted to look at athletes versus non-athletes. Have students received any formal or informal education regarding concussions, and how effective and efficient do they think it's going to be? And then from what sources are students obtaining this knowledge? So this could be academic research, social media, or any personal experiences they have. And then I wanted to learn about the perceived knowledge level of athletes regarding concussion symptoms, and I wanted to compare it to groups specifically, such as coaches, athletic trainers, and the general public. So my hypothesis for these questions, I believe that athletes would be more concerned about the psychological symptoms, while non-athletes would be more concerned about the physical. I believe athletes would be a little bit more knowledgeable about the symptoms and how severe they can be. About half of students will have had some sort of education on concussions, and hopefully they find it useful or somewhat useful. And then they'll get most of their information of concussions from media or personal experience. And like I said, media can be social media, any ESPN they watch, any newspapers. And then personal experience can be information coming from coaches, athletic trainers, or physical therapists. So for the knowledge level, compared to the college athletes, I believe coaches and athletic trainers will be more knowledgeable, while the general public will be the least knowledgeable about concussions. So a little bit about my research design. I had 100 college students were my participants. These were freshmen and graduate students. I sampled them from a Robert Morris intramural game. I broke my sample down into demographics. We were 46% athlete and 54% non-athlete. Then we were scaled a little bit towards the male population, so 68% male and 32% female. So this was a descriptive research design. It was made up of 22 questions. They were yes or no and Likert scale. I organized it into 3 categories, which got cut off for some reason. It was perceived knowledge, actual knowledge, and attitudes. So this is where I would ask students about how much knowledge you had, how much knowledge do you think these coaches have, and then with attitudes, like how concerned are you in your sport with getting a concussion? So some of my results. I found significance in the concern for the psychological symptoms of specifically mood change and depression. So 46 of the athletes that I surveyed were extremely concerned about mood change versus the 29% of non-athletes. And this was significant because it was on a scale of not concerned to extremely concerned. So the majority of those athletes were extremely concerned about mood change. And for depression, 34% of athletes versus 20% of non-athletes. I was surprised. I didn't find any statistical findings in physical symptoms, which kind of surprised me that people weren't really concerned about like headaches or sensitivity to light. For my education, I found 72% of participants had an education in high school, while only 24% reported having an education in college. So I kind of found that interesting too. About 2/3 had a concussion education in high school, while it kind of flipped, and less than 1/3 had some sort of education in college. So what was good was that 53% of the students who had some sort of education believed it was useful or extremely useful. And then over 50% of students, like I said, did get their information from media and personal experience. And this can kind of be good and kind of be bad, because if I want to use the movie Concussion, for example, so it was good because it sparked a lot of good information, a lot of good talk about concussions, but it also kind of sparked this unnecessary paranoia about concussions, like parents thinking all their kids are going to get CTE just from playing football, which isn't obviously the case. And then personal experience is good as long as you're getting reliable information from a reliable source. So this was my results. I made a chart for my perceived knowledge level. So this was for the categories college athletes, coaches, athletic trainers, and the general public. So what I found was that my participants found that college athletes were 43% knowledgeable and 11% highly knowledgeable. Coaches were around the same, a little bit more skewed to the highly knowledgeable. Athletic trainers, which is how it's supposed to be, 66% were highly knowledgeable, and the general public I found 40% not knowledgeable. So a little bit of my conclusion, I concluded that NCAA and club athletes reported more concern about the psychological symptoms than non-athletes, and like I said before, specifically mood changes and depression. So the norm in sports and society does emphasize these physical symptoms when I found that they were more concerned about the psychological symptoms. So we need to talk about some resources that they can go to deal with these problems. So first off, sports psychologists. So they're here to help athletes with any stress, any anxiety they're having with their sport. And if they're having any problems with concussions, if you're having mood changes, anything like that, they're there to help you and get you through that. The same thing with athletic trainers and physical therapists. So they're trying to see a bone is broken or you sprain your ankle. You can't always physically see what's going on in your mind. So it would be really helpful if they're there to kind of work you through the physical and the psychological symptoms at the same time to get the athlete back on their feet and be the best athlete they can be. So also with the students being educated about concussions, they did say it was useful, but it was only about a 2.5 out of a scale of 4. So I would like to see improved concussion education, especially for those athletes who are at risk for concussion, because if you're at risk for concussion every day, you should definitely know more about it. And then resources and teaching tools are needed, obviously, to improve the knowledge of the general public. If we believe that 40% of the public was not knowledgeable, we need to get ways to improve that and help the general public learn information about concussions. So some of the limitations of my study, I might have found my population was a little bit more informed than maybe the general public. Like I said before, it was a convenience sample from an intramural game. Mostly males between 19 and 24, so maybe they know a little bit more about sports. Maybe they've heard about concussions, maybe they watched the movie, they know about CTE, they watch ESPN. So this could have kind of skewed a little more, maybe they're more knowledgeable than if I just grabbed someone off the street and asked them about concussions. So maybe it wouldn't generalize a little bit as much as I would like it. And then I had to factor in some personal bias. So if any participants received a concussion, maybe they're kind of impacting their feelings and their attitudes toward concussions on my survey. So my recommendations for future research. I would love to see this study expanded to different populations and comparing those populations. So I would love to go up a level to see how professional athletes feel about concussions, especially after watching the movie, knowing that it happens so commonly in their sport. The general population, obviously seeing just a common knowledge level, and then the parents of athletes. I thought that'd be really interesting seeing if your mom who has a son who plays football is a lot more concerned about it than just the regular person. Then I want to understand the knowledge gap between these different populations and find the best way to close that gap and relay information to individuals personally. So comparing participants who have had concussions and those who have not, like I said, that could have been one of my limitations. So maybe seeing if there's a difference in attitudes and then the perceived and actual knowledge between someone who's had a concussion and someone who hasn't. And then making sure we study the effectiveness of these treatments on athletes who have experienced mental problems as a result of a concussion. So making sure that they're getting the best education, the best treatments that they can if they're having mental problems, and making sure, like I said, they're coming back 110%. These are my references, and we're saving questions, right?
Yep.